Separatio Elementorum. In an iron vessel of moderate capacity, place the seeds or materials, a little more than half full. Attach a glass head together with a condenser and a very large receiver capable of holding 20 gallons, or 160 pounds of water, or more. Let the joints be connected as perfectly as possible, especially the extended joint between the condenser and receiver, leaving nevertheless a small opening through which untamed gas may escape. Let the fire then be lit and gradually increased until the condenser and receiver are filled with vapors and drops begin to fall into the bottom of the receiver. Maintain this degree of heat for 2 or 3 hours. Afterwards, increase the fire until the vessel gradually becomes red hot. Then remove the flaming and smoking fire and manage the vessel until the vapors condense and settle. Then again, increase the fire until the vessel glows intensely and the condenser becomes very hot. Afterwards, remove the fire, and the matter within the vessel will ignite, while the subtle spirit of heat rises more freely and becomes separated from the corrosive salts. If one were to maintain a continuous fire without these interruptions, the spirits could not be separated from the corrosive substances. The proper time for these operations is summer or clear weather. The glass head should be cooled with a damp cloth, and the vessels, the pot, head, and condenser, should always be well sealed, lest the spirit escape. This work is properly completed by a threefold heat over a period of 12 or 14 hours. On the following morning, remove the head and clean away the corrosive salts adhering to it. These salts are useless in this operation, although if sublimed, they might perhaps be useful in medicine. Repeat these distillations every day, 6, 8, or 10 times, in order to prepare the work. Afterwards, the residue serves to nourish the chick, meaning the developing philosophical substance. Once the distillation is complete, pour the water from the receiver into a glass separating funnel whose tube should be strong and sealed with a stopper. Let the liquid stand in the funnel for several hours, and below there will separate a reddish water from the oily substance above. Let this water gradually run out by slowly loosening the stopper, while the oily substance remains in the funnel. Then pour fresh distilled water from the receiver again into the funnel, and once more the lower water will separate and flow out. Continue in this manner until all the water from 6, 8, or 10 distillations has been poured into the funnel. Then the lighter oil, separated from the lower water, will begin to divide into 2 substances, namely, a red oil floating above, and beneath it a white substance settling below, called the material water, mineral spirit, and gross air. This subsides into a white oily spirit called the material water, and this is called our great work. Separate these lower waters as carefully as possible because our great work abhors and flees, as Philalethes says, a certain central water and afterwards other waters as well. All these waters are crude and impure, but the lower waters are especially impure, containing the gases of crude chemical and poisonous salts which must be separated. Pour off the lower waters and let the separating funnel stand in a cold place for a month. Then another lower water will separate, and this too should be poured away. Then digest the lower waters in glass for a month in gently heated sand, whose warmth should resemble the heat of a brooding hen. Below deadhead, which body is black coagulum fragile, is calcined in this manner. Take a cucurbit, place one another, and the bottom of it afterward remove. Construct a furnace brick built with grate 6 fingers broad. Upon the great place, a furnace larger than the cucurbit and the furnace round about build up to the summit of the cucurbit with potters. Clay 3 fingers thick between the furnace and the cucurbit. Upon the cucurbit place a vessel earthen cylindrical with bottom flat cut out, thus positioned that to the rim of glass it may be similar, and all things tightly let be sealed as if one vessel. Afterwards the bottom of the glass retort quart-sized English, a quart retort, with heated iron 9 or 10 fingers broad let be removed or so that to the aforesaid rim it may be fitted. Break the dead head into fragments fist, equaling in size. With these the furnace fill and the fragments which last are put in first, well let them be kindled to fire. The retort immediately place horizontally with condenser 1 or 2, and large receiver let them be attached, and that these all may be of the same height to the horizontal, let it be arranged best except that at the mouth of the receiver an opening may lie open for pure air from the fire coming. Otherwise dead head will not burn. But let that opening be not larger than by which the fire may be maintained, lest the calcination be too violent and part of the vapor will fly away, which to have happened you will recognize if corrosive oil in likeness of oil of sulphur upon the hood of the cooled horned retort should adhere. The material thus by burning will be calcined into red ashes through openings through the grate descending and below through air by which the fire is nourished easily it will escape. When the operation completed is, and the horned retort shall have cooled, which in hours 24 or 30 will happen, you will find in the retort white lunar flowers which rubbed collect on paper white clean and in glass clean cautiously preserve. For they are fumes burning which toward moisture coagulating contribute. Earth saline, and nevertheless sulphurous and incombustible, which not improperly arsenical may be called. They are the nature of the moon and foundation of the central moon. These flowers in the horned retort alone are found. In the condensers and receiver will be found liquor which at gentle fire digested, and from phlegm freed, it will be sour like vinegar. From ashes red sifted with water, warm rainwater distilled let be extracted volatile salt, and liquid upon new ashes poured let it evaporate more salty, until it may be sufficiently salty. Ashes in earthen vessels placed let them be stirred, and liquid hot, and thus turbid at rest will be separated. This having been done, the liquid clear golden rabilis, which toward its middle a little will decline, let it evaporate with slow fire, until the salt may be sandy, and the redness thoroughly purge until all salt from all red ashes by distillation. Thus thoroughly purge until all salt from which you compose the egg, that is distillation 6, 8, or 10 times, you will have extracted. Otherwise the weight of nature and of water you increase. This operation in 14 days is performed. This proper salt, which from red solar earth is extracted, which the fire of the central sun contains stable, is the foundation of this treasure by various labors used in composition of the work. And thus far, concerning the separation of the elements, bodies are calcined so that more quickly they may be dissolved, and the same are dissolved, so that from oily roots and sulphurs and other things, from insufficient digestion emerging, and from fixation and fusion, true bodies with failings, evils may be cleansed. To cleanse indeed bodies soluble or stripping away of accidental sulphurities is necessary, until they may be most white like crystal deprived of all greenness, which sulphurity remaining in metallic bodies, it is impossible those to be joined with spirits. If bodies and spirits are not of the same kind, they are not mixed through the smallest parts, and if they are not intermixed, the whole substance of the spirits will ascend without any cleansing. Therefore he who are living silver from a thing which to its nature foreign is to sublimate labors will be frustrated. And if with vessels of 2 lights you will have sublimated usefully, you will sublimate and cleanse with dregs. Because common spirit that however foreign is not to that into which living silver through the mastery of ours is converted, namely white and red sulphur, from which is created silver and gold. Because if sulphur and mercury we have from that matter above the earth, from which gold and silver become beneath the earth, well, we will be able, gold and silver from those, to make, since they are of the same nature. Nothing indeed agrees, unless what more nearly related is to it from its own nature. For you see that man is not generated except by man, nor by other perfect animals except similar things. Therefore, with bodily dregs in nature most greatly agreeing, namely of the sun and moon, it is necessary mercury to be mixed through the smallest parts, and until sulphur may be made to be cooked. Restore therefore water upon its earth, and the aforesaid moisture. That is with earth from 2 bodies when it dries, namely sun and moon, and 2 of their elements are hard and stony, namely fire and earth in dryness agreeing. These together are to be prepared, since according to their qualities they agree into one and the same preparation. And therefore when living silver with radiant garments is clothed by parted, nearer will be leafy earth for tinging into sulphur red, than if alone white simply it shall have been clothed, especially since from its similar nature through such binding through the smallest parts now more mixable, just as the cooking of the earths of sun and moon, and of all those things which to the generation of such things surround. Join therefore the grosser substance of the sun with the moon. Into the moon, after extraction of copper and preparation, let it be introduced, because of their good mixing, and lest there be confusion. Preparation of obstructions of strengthening, and one the other well may tinge, and of both nature in the outcome may prevail, lest it be burned in the struggle of fire. Therefore they are prepared them, let it introduce salivary it is, and to nature near related. But the preparation of those, that is of calcined bodies, is nothing other than that greater moisture naturally to receive than in lime through separating, etc. Since therefore a sulphurous body upward to ascend will not be able, unless spirit shall have been incorporated with it through the smallest parts pour in the first water by turns little by little, time after time, by the smallest parts grinding and decocting until it may be congealed, the fire however so arranged, that the natural heat it may not exceed in the material, then dryness dry out by removing phlegm. Of this moreover process the form, by practicing many times you to examine, let it not weary, by grinding and digesting with fire of nature, imbibing with water of mercury first, decocting and dryness calcining, with exciting fire until from its water it shall have gone out as much as most clearly to see you will be able, through its volatility in small measure from itself upon heated plate it shall have been placed upon. This indeed is one of its most clear signs. Above all, however, it must be bewared time after time, lest the earth you imbibe except little by little, that is by the smallest amounts from the 8th into the 8th day with long trituration in furnace secret, in such way that the virtue of mercury, the virtue of sulphur may not surpass, because weak is the virtue of sulphur in the beginning of its nourishment. For sulphur ought mercury to itself attract and into itself convert, so that never they may be separated, just as neither water mixed with water. These things therefore peace between fire and water, and stable masteriare. For spirit is converted into body so long as the sum of the fixed surpasses the sum of the volatile, then body is converted into spirit so long as the sum of a volatile surpasses the sum of the fixed. These things therefore, so that of water one body may be with earth, nor suspend yourself from the work until through trituration and roasting the earth may be dry and white, because drying with strong trituration and roasting the earth makes white. Nevertheless, no less still the same to imbibe you ought little by little, and afterwards to calcine gently, so that of living silver sequestration may be acquired. And beware, lest the roasting of the stone may be too much strong, lest the body may be dissolved, and to the nature of spirit reduced by reason of its sublimity and sharpness of fire may be turned into flight, and it may lose the mastery. Pages 163, 164, 165, 166, 164. It is expedient, however, when the body thus increased and nourished shall have been through fitting moisture, that according to the measure of its nourishment or increase more greatly, you may imbibe with water, according to the quantity of the increased body. Because then the body is of greater attraction, and consequently by reason of its subtle parts spiritual into bodies of roasted and congealed things of greater power digesting, it exists. Therefore with greater nourishment, let it be nourished by turns, until to perfect whiteness it shall have arrived. And at the end of the decoction, calcine the body, expelling urinary moisture gently, and not hastily, lest the dissolved body may be turned into smoke, and the mastery perish. This is the color which by fire is not burned, neither within nor without, but by greater decoction of fire into citrinity it is reduced, which is the third principle, demonstrative principle, and finally by succession and greater digestion of fire, it is terminated into redness, which sign is of things completed, and of the fourth demonstrative principle, by which the alchemist himself to regulate ought in the mastery. Therefore let the craftsman study all demonstrative signs which in every decoction appear, because while the earth is expelled black is imperfect and incomplete, wherefore therefore time after time regulating the fire in calcination, until from the formation of fire the earth may come forth white. Because just as agent in moistness first generates blackness, thus agent in dryness generates whiteness, and successively in that whiteness citrinity it generates. But with addition of 7 little tongues that is perfected, if dominion of moisture in earth shall have been great, and little in it of dominion of heat, certainly blackness will appear in it. And if in it dominion shall have been of tempered heat, and little of dominion of moisture, other colors will appear. Water first to earth is joined, then to air and oil, because of moisture which putrefaction indicates. Soul is not joined with body except by spirit mediating, and water first into earth are fixed before air or oil through reduction into earth are fixed in moistness agent. First blackness generates and smoke, but it is raised with body except by spirit mediating, and water first into earth is fixed before air or oil through reduction into earth are fixed for heat. Acting in moisture first generates blackness and smoke. But conquering moisture afterwards induces dryness in the material upon which it acts, and thus makes a new transmutation and generates a new color in generation, just as beautiful, white shining, and most noble. If therefore the earth shall not have been white, wash it with clear water, and again calcine, because solution that is water, and fire the laton that is earth calcines, because darkness from it removes, because preparation of the earth white is with water, and of what kind shall have been the clarity of the water, such will be always the clarity of the earth, and by how much more it shall have been washed, by so much more will it be white, the brightness of the earth. And when the moist quantity of the congealed and sublimed the quantity of the obscure body whiteness more is generated in the material than by other causes, because in moisture always color the nature of its own moisture follows, and by how much more our earth in such moistness and nature is perfected, and by how much more the earth in moisture is washed, by so much more it will be whitened, and by how much more such moisture from above is subtilized and prepared, by so much rather with color more clear and more bright it will be multiplied. And conversely, by how much less it will be prepared, by so much more it will be proportioned to blackness of darkness, and to burningness more it will approach, so long as in heat not more it will be prepared therefore the elements, so that they may be from filths clean and all things, because if to burning prepared therefore the elements their smoky nature they will have. When the earths burn, they are deprived of effect and usefulness. When the earth you shall have had prepared somewhat dried, but when of the prepared earth nourish it until all fire to endure it shall be able. Then from it projections to make you will be able. The birth, indeed, of the earth happens through the way of sublimation. Since therefore the earth shall have conceived and drunk of the water of mercury, as much as it will be able to digest through its volatility and stripping itself from the most pure white substance, and through the now spoken reductions you shall have cleansed from corrupting non-fixed sulphureity. Immediately its material sublime with stronger fire as much as you can, until it ascends in the manner of whitest powder, or of leaves of luna, or of splendid talc, of which the greater part is living silver, then corporeal sulphur, and therefore by subtle ignition, the thinner spirit by the smallest parts, bodies with it may lift in the flight of sulphur. But when you shall have seen the most pure material of earth upward raised, and as if in the manner of snow whitest shining adhering, this sublimation upon it repeat without dregs in cleansed irons, because the fixed part of it with the dregs adheres, and then by some device invention, no one could separate the subtle essence from those things. But the white stone, which appears whitened both on the surface and in its inner substance, when sublimed into the form of the finest powder, produces burning with combustion, although for the greater part in the preparation of the vapor, the conception, or reduction of time, namely in calcinations. That which is more subtle and intense evolves from the pure vapor, a whiter sooty matter, and separates from the more fixed substance of relation, since it is not from the substance of living silver, nor from its perfection. The residue, however, which is sublimed from the surfaces, is that part which exists in such a quality that it acts as a simple feminine substance over the fire without notable burning, like the foundation and basis of the whole magistery. For it is the subtle intermediate substance of mercury, from which our medicine is composed, which takes its origin from living silver, and from that it ought to be created immediately. Introduce nothing alien, except that which has arisen from it in nearness of nature. And at this stage it is shown that the matter from which we compose the medicine is not living silver in its ordinary nature, since it has already been changed into sulphur, nor in its whole substance, since foreign parts have already been separated from that medicine. Rather, it is the blessed stone, already born, and the particular spirit of that medicine. Yet because the stone is made from its own base by two separations, it is simply called living silver, because its sulphur gives illumination and protects it from burning. Therefore make the northern part between the bright and the limpid, because that which immediately ascends upon the surfaces adhering in measured ascent is called the ash extracted from ash, or sublimed and honored from its hollow. But that which remains in the lower part, namely at the bottom of the vessel, is the inferior ash, condemned dregs, slag, and dark blackness, which you have no need of in the magistery. Carefully gather therefore that which you find sublimed in the middle, between the lower flame and the highest soot, lest it escape into smoke, because that is the approved thing sought, the good, the better, the best. The white foliated earth, the coagulating substance or coagulum of the lamb, coagulated ash, ash of ashes, stone and mercury, arsenic, white, sulphur, and the salt nearest to nature, the child generated and born, the nourishment and first and nearest matter of metals, and the first subject in which the proper elements of the same moist and tempered nature must be reduced by some fire into itself with its own fire by way of nourishment, until it flows with its ferment like wax or gum and endures every fire. Therefore work with it towards silver, and you will soon begin the magistery, nor let it enter without agitation, because by attracting it you will not give unless it withdraw after birth with its own blood, so that nature, weakened and wearied, may be strengthened with its white ferments until it becomes nearer to the better temperament. Its sign shall be, when it emits even the slightest fire before the flight of living silver, and it will begin to increase at last, bright, deeply penetrating, smooth, and enduring. But when for the red elixir you wish to possess the natural fire visible in its own color for the red sulphur, do this through the third impregnation and third partition. Therefore make the male ascend above the white woman, so that he may generate a son like himself, for naturally the father desires to multiply his species in the sun. Truly the father of this is the sun and the moon, the mother, joined with living silver. Once united they shall never again be separated, but rather will restore the matter to the nature of its origin. Therefore join the seeds of the male and female, namely the red sulphur of the whitening bodies dissolved in water, with the feminine seed, with the lesser portion placed above, but it is joined with the white sulphur by means of continual imbibition in this decoction until it is dissolved into red water, and the whole becomes one through the truest mixture, and when it has been dissolved and truly made one, it is congealed again by the method of reduction. Dissolve the coagulated matter again into water, and once more congeal it into stone by the method shown above. Then a third time dissolve it into water, and decoct it until the whole becomes red, for he does not subtilize who does not join by the smallest parts, nor does he join by the smallest parts who dries before he imbibes. Therefore imbibe the whole and dry it until it becomes the finest powder, namely dissolve not in the water of redness, but in the water of blood and the mercurial water. And when the water in it has been congealed to half its weight, the whole will be white, Then strengthen the fire with charcoal. Strengthen it, for there is no need to do otherwise until you see it red like scarlet. Afterwards strengthen the fire with flame, until it is sublimed. Raymond, Final Testament in the Practica, p. 153. Therefore administer to it the strongest fire, so that the white untinctured substance may be separated, that is, the white sulphur, and the residue may be gilded, tinged, digested, coagulated, and reddened. But that which rises upward is the most white and exceedingly noble sublimed sulphur, the natural white sulphur. But that which remains below in the bottom is sulphur, and the elixir for gold. And in this step we show that the philosophers spoke truly concerning what the ignorant and unlearned hold to be impossible, nor did we ourselves once believe it until at last we saw, and proved it by hand, namely, that there is one stone, one medicine, one matter, one disposition, one work, and one vessel for accomplishing the sublimation all together and at one time, although all investigators of this art, seeing the aforesaid whiteness appearing in the vessel, believe that redness lies hidden within it. For indeed it is not necessary, my son, if you wish to convert all the white sulphur into red, to extract the aforesaid whiteness from the redness by sublimation, rather only cook it with the fire of the stone until the whole has become red and fixed, and nothing of it can any longer be sublimed into white sulphur. Yet beware in the method of making and understanding the effect of the acting force, namely, the reddening fire. For according as the power of the fire of the stone existing in the seed of the sun overcomes the power of the pure air in the seed of the moon, the pure white sulphur will become like whiteness. Thus we possess white sulphur and red sulphur, the one pertaining to whiteness. And thus we may fix the white sulphur upon silver and the red sulphur upon gold, or by means of these transmute imperfect metals into silver and gold.